To learn to work with values, we are going to start with some very, very basic shapes. Look for some objects that you might have that are just simple spheres or cubes, a cone shape, but nothing very complicated. We want to, at this point, just learn how value affects the volume and creates the depth in the shape of an object, gives you the sense of three-dimension, as well as creating a very strong design element, even within abstract art. So at first, we're going to just work with grays. Every color has a value as well, but that starts to get a little more complicated. So let's start with learning to better see values using just our grays. Now, I do have the grayscale finder, value finder, which goes all the way from 1 to 10 in value. But for starting out with these simple basic shapes, we're going to try to strengthen those values as well as simplify how to create those shapes by reducing the number of values that we are working with. So basically, we're going to just kind of skip some of these values and find something that sort of is a mid-range. So we're going to have we're going to work with 4 values. We're going to have 2 that are going to represent the light, where the light is hitting, and 2 that will represent the shadow side of an object. And we are going to mix our grays using some of the color practice that we did this past week with your colors. I am using ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide, and that creates a nice black. So that will be our darkest value. And then for this simple exercise, we're just going to create our other values by adding amounts of white to that. It's a little bit warm, it's a little more brown, which just means I need to cool it down. I've got a little bit more of the red than the blue, so I'm just going to add some more of the ultramarine blue in my black to kind of cool that down and make it a little bit more of a gray color. See how much more gray that looks as we just add a little bit more blue to it. So those look like 2 pretty good shadow colors there on the value scale. You'll see, oops, here we got them in the wrong spot. You will see that those 2 values, if you squint down, it's kind of hard because you're getting light reflecting off from the paint colors, but if you squint down, your value should almost disappear into the color. If you squint, you can hardly see the difference there between the color chart and your value. And the next one up, again, same thing, squint down. As I said, this is a little hard because you're seeing the light reflecting off from the paint that I just painted too. You should be able to better see it yourself when you are not dealing with the reflective light and so on. Let's see here. Then we've got those 2 values. We will call those our 2 shadow values, and then we will add a little more white to this value here. I might have to mix up some more color. I don't think I put a big enough pile out here. That is giving me my 3rd value, which is quite high up now on the color chart, value scale. Maybe a little bit darker than that. More like about a value 6, I guess. Yeah, pretty close to value 6. And then I will add a little bit more white to come up with my 4th value. I'm going to save pure white as a value if I want to add some reflective light, like right where the light is shining on an object. It's the whitest white. So okay, here we have it. We have almost a black, and then just a couple values up from that, which these two will be everything that we create in our shadow colors. And then we have done our 2 light shades. When we are painting our objects now, clean my brush out here. In the mineral spirits, it's a little bit hard to do because I'm holding my camera in my hand, but I then wipe it down with a paper towel, wipe off the excess as well as I can. I'm going to choose one of my simple objects. For starters, I think I will just do this simple little bowl here. The angle that I've got it, I'm seeing down into the interior of it, and that's kind of complicating things. I want to see it more on just a straight angle for now. When you look at it, you will clearly see that you have, you know, the light, where the light is hitting. And in actuality, you will actually have your lightest light along the edge here where the strongest light is hitting it. And then moving on across into your shadow area, you will actually see a tiny bit of a lighter value in order to create the sense of this form moving away from you, because this part is getting some reflected light and also starting to draw from the light that is coming from back behind and just barely catching that edge. So your darkest dark is not right on your very edge. It's more like over in here and even down into here. So we're going to start by putting in that medium value. And I just have some little scraps of linen here that I'm going to work with. I'm trying to work the camera, my paintbrush, and still get some idea of my object I'm painting here all at the same time. I will start with a real simple outline of the shape, just to give me kind of a road map of my shape. Okay, my darkest dark then is right in here. It's very dark where it sits on the table. There's your medium value, and through here, and also push that down on the table there. And then, let's my brush off. Usually a little better at this one. I'm doing it with 2 hands. And then my lightest value all the way over here where the light is hitting it. And especially along the rim here. In this case, I actually have light color where it's hitting the interior. And it actually hits the interior. It's lighter on the side away from the light. And it's a little bit. Squint down and see how those values compare. It is actually one of your shadow colors that is on this other side of your bowl. And so there you have it. Just with those few simple values and strokes, I've already created a definite shape. Now, as I said, you actually do have a little bit of a lighter shadow along the very edge here because you're getting reflected light. And now you can blend some of these shapes so that they're not all exactly equal sizes here. You can start blending them into one another to soften some of the blending and the edge from one to the other. When you start to do that, you really see your shape take place. There is a lip along the bottom of that is very light because it's catching that light, and it's also a horizontal. My drawing, it's a little wonky on my base, but those are all things that you can correct as you go along. And when you're spending a little more time making sure you get those right. Now, I said that I would save my white for like a highlight if I had one, and just for the fun of it, I'm going to throw that in there on this just to show you how just with those few little bit, see, you've got some strong highlights sitting back here, and just with a few little strokes of white, you can create the sense of that light catching those areas. What else is around on the back side there? There's some lighter right along the edge. And other than the fact that my shape is really wonky, you have a very three-dimensional bowl created just by those few values. I want to extend this darkest value up here a little bit. I got too much, got that too far out. As I said, I can continue to kind of blend those in with one another if I want to create a more subtle shape rather than the harder shape. Okay. So that gives you the idea, hopefully, what we're trying to do here, learning that all objects are broken down into values, and that is what will create your depth, your shape, your volume, your depth, and even once we get a little more involved, you'll find that to be true even in the landscape, that there will be value shifts, like you've got your shadows in your trees, you've got shadow versus sunlight, and all of that creates that volume and that shape, so that you actually see an object as a three-dimensional thing and not flat. So learning values is very important. So we're going to take a little time this week, and I'd like you to just pull out various, as I said, just very simple objects, whether you want to paint some apples or some little glasses or vases, pictures, whatever. Keep your shapes as simple as possible. This is not about recreating some beautiful painting. This is just learning and practicing how to see those values. And you will continue also to play with your colors a little bit in this process, learning how to use your colors, your complement of your colors on your color wheel to create your grays, and then just adding white to go from a dark gray and lighter, lighter, lighter. So a few different things that this lesson will be helping you with, and so you can choose whatever objects you would like to The simpler you also keep the color initially, like with this, I just did a little white bowl, the easier it's going to be to translate it into a grayscale. When you start getting into color, it's a little bit harder, but all colors have a value as well. So, and squinting your eyes down when you view something is a really good way of breaking down those solid shapes and seeing your values on there.